Let me get in the first response from the Ukrainian MP live, on Republic TV. That was Joe Biden a few minutes back. Let me go close to Sofia. Sofia, you heard him. Nothing more coming apart from sanctions. I didn't hear him say anything more than sanctions. He's not doing anything more than sanctions for now. He says he will protect NATO territory. Now, you're not a member of NATO yet.
The very important part to understand that we know that we are not a part of NATO, and we were not counting on the NATO military to come into Ukraine to fight with us together. We are going to protect our country on our own, having all the necessary weapons that is already supplied by our partners. What Mr. Biden said, that he is going to urge all the other partners, and the United States as well, are going to supply all military stuff that is necessary for Ukraine to defend itself. But what's much more important, they started to impose sanctions. And I think it's quite okay that they started from the two largest banks that provide the military aggression of Moscow Federation. And on the other hand, they started to put sanctions on the closest surrounding of Putin. We know that they protect Moscow Federation, they are patriots of Moscow Federation, but all the elite children, they study in the United States, United Kingdom, and other European countries. All their bank accounts are in the United States and other European countries. And I think that this part of the sanctions package, the first package, as I understood, is going to be a good start. What I also really I liked from this address, that Mr. Biden stressed that the Moscow Federation, it threatens the right of Ukraine for its existence. And the United States are going to help us to combat that. That is a very important fact, because many years of war, there was a discussion that it's only Moscow-Ukrainian conflicts. It's not. Moscow Federation does not need Ukraine at all as a democratic country. And fighting with Ukraine, Moscow Federation threatens democracy and peace in all the democratic world.
Okay, let me get in, this is significant. Whatever he's done, he's slapped sanctions, and he has said that the European Union is also going to take further measures in the next few days to come. Let me get in Dmytro Kashuba, live from Ukraine. Dmytro, you heard what Biden said. You heard what Putin said earlier. Now, Putin has made it clear that he's going to, take action on Ukraine. He spoke about the military build-up in Ukraine. He spoke about the nuclear weaponization of Ukraine. Now, all of this, along with what we are hearing from the ground, that some of his troops are already entering Donbass and eastern Ukraine, show that it's getting bigger than what we thought earlier.
Yes, first of all, I want to say that I spent quite a lot of time talking to Ukrainian militaries today, and everyone absolutely sure that Putin is going to continue his attack, not only from the east, but from the north as well. And we should understand that the sanctions imposed on Putin right now on Russian banks, they work, but unfortunately they work only in long-term perspective. We should understand that many scenarios of sanctions being carefully calculated by Russians as well, and they prepared for this. And they, as people here in Ukraine think, they don't afraid of these sanctions. Unfortunately, here in Ukraine, we're quite sure that more sanctions could be more helpful in this situation. We understand that we should understand that this is the last chance of Vladimir Putin to attack Ukraine, because at the time of possibility of this attack is expiring, and the time of his presidency, because of the natural reasons, expiring as well. So we completely sure that his motivation is quite clear, and he will continue.
Very interesting. I want to take this question to Sofia. Sofia is a parliamentarian in Ukraine. She's a Ukrainian MP, and you, towards the end of that speech, when Joe Biden spoke, his last sentence was, Sofia, he said, "I'm hoping diplomacy is still available." So he's keeping that window open, you know.
It's a good point. So diplomacy should be available till the last very moment, because we know when diplomacy measures end, then the cannons work. And if Moscow Federation pushes all the possible cannons, it will be very hard to survive. So Mr. Biden gives a possibility to Putin to make a step back. But I think this is a position of the leader of the civilized country. Unfortunately, with Moscow Federation, we have to deal with a terrorist country, that any possible negotiation process is understanding as that the negotiator is very weak, as a weak position. So we should answer from the position of power. And for Ukrainians, that's not the power to shoot someone, but the position of power to have all the possible measures to defend ourselves. And now I think while Putin announced that he has a right to intervene other countries to kind of protect Moscovians or self-proclaimed fake republics, we have understand that Putin ruined Minsk agreements, and Ukrainians have to be more active in protecting ourselves, our soldiers, our civilians, and our territories. What I would like to hear more, and I expected it, but I think this is a kind of the process of the negotiations of the partners of the United States, is how to spread the air defense system of NATO and European Union over the Ukrainian territory to protect Ukraine from the possible air attack that could be done by Moscow Federation, as we understand that Moscow has much more air forces than Ukraine has. Unfortunately, one more sign for this kind of possible aggression is the Moscovian troops on the territory of Belarus, and there are special types of rockets that could be used to infringe the security of Ukraine and capital Kyiv from the air. Therefore, once again, having the possibility, we urge our European partners, we ask our NATO partners to spread air defense system over Ukrainian territory as well. But also, I think we need to heavily discuss the question of the peacekeeping mission of the United States on the territory that is being now occupied by Moscow Federation.
And just, for all our viewers joining us on the broadcast, Joe Biden, the US president, has made a series of statements, in fact, talking about further economic sanctions. So taking this to the next step, responding to what Putin said earlier this evening, he has said Russia had no right to declare new countries in the first place. He said that America, NATO, and the European Union will continue to impose more sanctions if Russia goes ahead. He said starting tomorrow, sanctions will be imposed on not just Russia, but also Russian elites. He spoke about the richest in Russia, those who control the Russian economy. He said Nord Stream 2 with Germany will not move forward, which of course is already public now. And he said that that's a big message that the European Union has sent out. He's saying that he will make sure, along with NATO and the European Union, that Russia can't raise more money and trade with the West, and that they have no intention of fighting. Very interesting. And very interesting, he said they have no intention of fighting Russia militarily. Now, I found that statement very interesting, Sofia, when he said we have no intention of fighting Russia militarily. Why would he say that? Why would he say that?
Actually, it's a good question, but very simple answer. Moscow Federation says that they have to invade to Ukraine, that they have to concentrate army, because the United States want to fight Moscow Federation, because Ukraine, in a partnership with Biden and the United States, want to make an act of aggression towards the Moscow Federation. And this is very important statement of Biden, because no one needs Moscow Federation when it is peaceful within its own borders. But we are going to stand together in case Moscow Federation invades Ukraine, as it did right now and as it did 8 years ago. He is saying this, that back to its borders and gets off Ukraine, no one is.
Yeah.
He said in so and around and the moment Russia Baltic ally. Russia's naval seen much false flag events along the line of contact in the Donbass. Dramatically staged, conveniently on-camera meeting of Putin's Security Council to grandstand for the Russian public. And now political provocation of recognizing sovereign Ukrainian territory as so-called independent republics in clear violation, again, of international law. President Putin has sought authorization from the Russian parliament to use military force outside of Russian territory. And this set the stage for further pretexts of further provocations by Russia to try to justify further military action. None of us should be fooled. None of us will be fooled. There is no justification. Further Russian assault in Ukraine remains a severe threat in the days ahead. And if Russia proceeds, it is Russia and Russia alone that bears the responsibility. As we respond, my administration is using every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers from rising prices at the pump. As I said last week, defending freedom will have cost for us as well and here at home. We need to be honest about that. But as we do this, I'm going to take robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, not ours. We're closely monitoring energy supplies. for any disruption. We're executing a plan in coordination with major oil-producing consumers and producers toward a collective investment to secure stability in global energy supplies. This will blunt gas prices. I want to limit the pain the American people are feeling at the gas pump. This is critical to me. In the last few days, I've been in constant contact with European leaders, including with Ukrainian President Zelensky. Vice President Harris met in person with the leaders in Germany over the weekend at the Munich conference, including President Zelensky. At every step, we have shown the United States and our allies and partners are working in unison, which he hasn't been counting on, Mr. Putin. We're united in our support of Ukraine. We are united in our opposition to Russian aggression. And we're united in our resolve to defend our NATO alliance. And we're united in our understanding of the urgency and seriousness of the threat Russia is making to global peace and stability. Yesterday, the world heard clearly the full extent of Vladimir Putin's twisted rewrite of history, going back more than a century, as he waxed eloquently, noting that, well, I'm not going to go into it, but nothing in Putin's lengthy remarks indicate any interest in pursuing real dialogue on European security in the year 2022. He directly attacked Ukraine's right to exist. He indirectly threatened territory formerly held by Russia, including nations that today are thriving democracies and members of NATO. He explicitly threatened war unless his extreme demands were met. And there is no question that Russia is the aggressor. So we're clear-eyed about the challenges we're facing. Nonetheless, there is still time to avert the worst-case scenario that will bring untold suffering to millions of people if they move as suggested. The United States and our allies and partners remain open to diplomacy if it is serious. When all is said and done, we're going to judge Russia by its actions, not its words. And whatever Russia does next, we're ready to respond with unity, clarity, and conviction. We'll probably have more to say about this as it moves on. I'm hoping diplomacy is still available. Thank you all very much.
Okay, so that was Joe Biden's address, and he also said that he's trying to evade or duck the worst case scenario. We don't know what the worst case scenario is, but this is what Americans have been predicting. Now, you ask the Russians, Sofia, you ask the Russians and they tell you there is nothing called an invasion and that these are just peacekeeping forces that are marching into Donbass to help Donbass and the people of Donetsk and Luhansk.
These are not peacekeeping troops. The war is going on for 8 years. And we have the evidence from 2014 starting that Moscow troops all the time were present on that territory, threatening people. And from the territory of occupied Luhansk and Donetsk regions, they were attacking Ukrainian sovereign territory that is controlled by Ukraine. But the Putin uses the mechanisms of democratic world to explain his aggression. And that is a lesson a world should learn, how to counteract this perverted vision of Moscow Federation, what to do. He knows definitely that normal countries would listen, okay, maybe that's really peacekeeping troops. But he occupies today the sovereign territory of Ukraine. And actually, I would like to ask not to use the names of these republics, as these are temporarily occupied territories of Donetsk and Luhansk region of Ukraine. Putin wants this quasi-hybrid mechanisms to work to cut Ukraine as we cut a sausage, and slice by slice to get all the other regions to have the possibility to join them more to the Moscow Federation. We have to counteract that. And by the way, while we were listening to Joe Biden's speech, I've got the analytics and what the analysts say, especially from the financial sphere, that one of the banks that Biden put sanctions on is the bank through which Moscow Federation conducts its all international trade agreements. And that was a good shot, as the Moscow Federation will have much less opportunities in international trade. The second point is that Biden cut off Moscow Federation from Western resources. And now the sovereign debt of the Moscow Federation is going to grow more, and Moscow will have no possibilities to take somewhere a credit to go on with the economic development. I think that might be a good sign and a good point to start once again negotiations and for Putin to back off.
But let me ask you something. I mean, there were pictures that we were showing some time back. You can see those pictures, Dmitry. If you can look at those pictures, right? These are pictures from Donetsk earlier today, and we have our correspondent Patrick Lancaster who's reporting live from there. You see the car there in the video? That's a car that we were reporting from Donetsk. That car was destroyed in what the people of Donetsk in this particular region said was firing by Ukraine. Now, why is Ukraine firing at people? This is a report that was said. Yes.
First of all, this is the part of Moscow propaganda informational warfare, because we have the definite data that Ukrainian soldiers are not shooting, are not shelling the territories of temporarily occupied Donetsk and Luhansk region. This is the Moscow Federation who on 17th of February started shelling of Ukrainian territory, starting from kindergarten and school. Furthermore, we have the data of the security service of Ukraine that is backed with the intelligence data of our Western partners, who say this is audio recording in which there is an information that Moscovian soldiers speak with each other about the order to shoot their own territory and to tell that was done by Ukraine. So that is one more time when we see the perverted vision of what is going on. And Putin wants to say that Ukraine is shooting, but formally, Ukrainian soldiers are not shooting, not shelling, but formally Ukraine has a right to protect its own territory and temporarily occupied areas. It's Ukrainian territory. But furthermore, we know that the Moscow terrorists and Moscow troops are shelling the territory of Ukraine from civilian sector. That means that Ukrainian soldiers 200% are not answering because they do not want to endanger the civilians.
Okay, on that note, let me take one last question with my journalist friend from Ukraine who's been listening in very patiently. Dimitro, finally, after what Biden said, of course, we're expecting some big announcements. There's a big European Union meeting in Paris where more sanctions could be announced, more actions taken. But will any of it hurt Russia? They don't seem to be in a mood to reconcile at all, Dimitro.
Yes. First of all, I want to say that regarding your previous question, that we been facing with these kind of provocations quite often. For 8 years, almost all the time, almost every single month, they're trying to do something like that. There are no clear evidence that Ukrainian army tried to destroy some car or kill some other people. This is not true. And we should understand that they are going to continue these kind of scenarios again and again. More and more provocations are coming on the way. We should understand that all of these provocations, everything that we can hear from Russian media, actually fake. And regarding the sanctions, I would like to add also that we are waiting. We should understand that Putin will continue to move forward. And Joe Biden said that as he goes further to the west, America going to impose more and more sanctions. These sanctions might work better if all the sanctions are more and more aggressive. That's what Ukrainian people are hoping to see in close future.
One last question to Sofia, and we'll end it. Sofia, my last question to you: how will the Ukrainian government respond to what Putin and Joe Biden have said? And secondly, do you think this is going to escalate further?
Unfortunately, I think that will escalate 200%, as we can see that Moscow Federation understands only power, but now Putin is playing its own game to become like the greatest leader of modernity and to renew the Soviet Union empire. We in Ukraine, we really agreed all these sanctions. The question is that today Ukrainian parliament itself and Ukrainian president himself has also to impose sanctions on all those people who were mentioned by Joe Biden. Though Ukraine has not much influence on economic sphere, but anyway, we have to work hand in hand with our Western partners. Another thing that Ukraine today has a very hard question to give more money for the activity of Ukrainian army to support our soldiers who sacrifice their lives for Ukrainian independence and existence. And I hope tomorrow morning Ukrainian parliament will vote to give 50 billion hryvnia to have the possibility to strengthen our army. Furthermore, we welcome the position of Joe Biden of the strengthening of our Baltic partners, the countries of the post-Soviet era, but these countries understand 200% all the danger of Moscow Federation, and they are playing a very important role countering informational propaganda of Putin. But I think that the main point is to unite all the democratic countries, the countries that understand how dangerous it is to intervene to other country, to accuse country of its right to defend itself, and how important to be united to stand for peace and security against Moscow Federation as a terrorist country today.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Sofia and Dmytro. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow and hoping that all of you, wherever you are in Kiev and in different cities of Ukraine, stay safe. Thank you. And let's all hope that it doesn't end badly. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you joining us here on Republic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.